Hi, today I'm going to talk with you about trauma and anxious attachment. So, I'm Emma Coble. I'm a licensed professional counselor in Colorado. I see clients online in Colorado and in Florida. Reach out if you want a free consultation. Um, so, okay, what, first of all, anxious attachment is a word that kind of gets thrown around a lot recently, and thankfully, a lot more people are sort of familiar with it and are understanding it, which is great. But to just sort of go over what anxious attachment actually is, it tends to show up in relationships as hypervigilance, a constant or regular need for reassurance, sometimes over functioning, a drive to keep the other person close. And it can feel really frustrating for people because it can feel like I constantly have this anxiety in this relationship. And they can notice that sometimes the anxiety pushes the other person away, or makes it harder to actually receive love on some level. So, if you have anxious attachment, I want to just say, or you identify with parts of it, it does not need to be something that you have forever or that is unchangeable. It can change in with inner work that you can do and work in therapy, as well as different dynamics in your partnership. And sometimes it means being with a different partner, but you can also change it in a relationship you're currently in. Um, so, okay. So, trauma therapy. Um, okay. So, we kind of went over anxious attachment. And now I want to sort of talk a little bit about how trauma, especially early childhood trauma and attachment wounds, can contribute to anxious attachment. So, if you lived in a home where love and attention were not consistent or were conditional, if your caregivers were sometimes very present and sometimes not very present, you might have developed a tendency to be hypervigilant and be anxious about love and care as a kid, like to not know where it was going to come from, to not know when you were going to get it, to always kind of be on your feet and trying to think about ways you could get attention or earn love or be good, in order to be seen. So this is really common if your caregivers were emotionally unavailable or if they were kind of inconsistent at all in childhood. A lot of the clients I work with as well experience something called parentification, where they had to almost become like a parent in their family of origin, where maybe they were emotionally taking care of a parent who was unstable emotionally, or they were actually taking care of a brother or sister, or sibling in the family, or they were just taking care completely of their own needs, or they weren't allowed to have needs at all. Um, as well as a lot of people who have anxious attachment have experienced some kind of like early loss or abandonment. Maybe went through a divorce or the loss of a parent, or experienced death a lot early in their lives. So, oftentimes what happens when we've gone through some of these things is we start to believe that we have to work in order to achieve love and have love in our lives. And if we're not vigilant, if we're not careful, we're going to lose love. I want to just point out that this is very adaptive and a very smart thing that we often do early in life to try and keep connection and love around us. And you are not crazy or irrational in some way for experiencing this. In fact, it was probably very rational for you to act this way for a large part of your life. And you're probably here because you're recognizing that it might not be serving you anymore, or maybe this part doesn't need to work as hard anymore. So, trauma therapy can help in a variety of ways. First thing is kind of making sense of your story. We've just talked about maybe some of the reasons that anxious attachment might be here, to be able to identify, like, for you, what happened in your past that might have contributed to this, to be able to feel validated and like and make sense of what happened and why these hypervigilant anxious parts of you got so loud and so strong, can feel really empowering and can help you feel like you have more of an understanding of yourself. And it can also help these parts recognize that like you're no longer in that situation, and maybe they can start to relax a little bit. You can reprocess these early experiences, see them more clearly, become more desensitized to them through things like EMDR therapy. You can also build some internal safety and security, like a sense of being able to handle things, being able to handle like thinking about and processing difficult things in therapy, for example, which helps you feel more secure and stable in yourself, and like you have the ability to be resilient and be brave and get through tough stuff. Therapy can also help you learn to tolerate real closeness. So sometimes for people with anxious attachment, as much as not feeling close feels scary, sometimes feeling close can actually feel really scary. And that can sometimes be beneath this pushing away behavior that can come up when we have anxious attachment, is that it feels really scary to have someone be close to us and to have the potential to lose them. So trauma therapy can help you process that experience as well, and recognize where maybe you might be pushing love away and if there might be another option for you. I want to again remind you that like if this is coming up for you, it's not that you're too much. You're not alone in this, certainly not at all. Many people struggle with this, and there are ways you can change it and work through it. And if you are interested in learning more about that and how I can help, reach out for a free consultation. I'd love to chat with you. Have a good one.